What about you, Catlin? Or Caitlin?
Hi there. Yeah, I'm in New Brunswick, Canada, and I'm here with the Kaplan Center to help facilitate the workshop that you're running, Deb.
Oh, good. So if I have a hard time share screening, I'll call on you. Thanks. Robin.
Hi, I'm Robin Novick. I'm the educator at Koholev in Cleveland, Ohio.
Great. And Sue?
I'm the director at Colomet Synagogue in Yardley, Pennsylvania. And it's a Reconstructionist synagogue. And there we go.
Yeah.
Near
And
Philadelphia.
Catherine. Near Philly. Yeah. What about you, Catherine?
Hi, I'm Catherine Carmel. I'm the Director of Family Life and Learning, just up the road from you, Deborah, in Olympia, Washington.
In Olympia, right? Yeah, great. Nice to see your face.
Thank you.
And Adam.
Yeah, sorry, I'm off camera just because I'm in the middle of doing stuff, but I'm Adam Serino Jones. I'm the rabbi at the Jewish Congregation of New Paltz and functionally the ed director because we don't have one. So yeah,
Good.
happy to be here.
All right, this might be helpful to you. And Leora, I know because I was just in your workshop, but you can introduce yourself if other people don't know.
I'm Leora. I live in Baltimore and I work for New Synagogue Project in North DC.
Great. Well, it's great to be with you all. So what I think I'm doing, hopefully this coheres with what you're interested in, is talking just a little bit about our education program model. And then hopefully I'll be able to show you our curriculum treasury, as long as share screen works for me, which is a very thorough kindergarten through sixth grade curriculum. So I was struck by one of the things that Eric Kaplan said earlier, commenting on Mordecai Kaplan about idealism and creativity and optimism in Jewish educators being necessary, and the ifism. And this idea that ongoing creation and innovation is really baked into the creation of the world. It's sort of what humans are built for. And the reason it struck me is because when I think about this model that Havra Shalom has been working with, it really, it does sound amazingly innovative, creative, or like just crazy, like ridiculous, right? I mean, one of the two. And I guess in my experience of 20 years working in Havra, and this model preceded me by 20 years, so it's actually 40 years old, I could say that there is actually some middle ground. Sometimes it's crazy and ridiculous, and sometimes it's just incredible that we have managed to do this and continue to do this. So I'm hoping that whatever I present will be helpful to you, and that you can sort of think about, okay, how could a piece of this be applicable? What could be helpful to me in my context? I'm not assuming anybody's gonna transfer this model right over to what they're doing, because it's taken a long time to grow it. So, so I think what makes it not just absurd and like a lovely ideal, well, let me just say what it is in case you didn't read the little description. So we are a Reconstructionist synagogue with 500 families now, continuing to grow sort of despite ourselves. I wish we weren't growing as much, but we continue to grow. So we have 500 families in the Shabbat school, which is kindergarten through sixth grade. We have about 95 families, 130 kids, and the parents are the teachers. We do not hire teachers for Shabbat school. We hire 2 or 3 Hebrew teachers for voluntary Hebrew classes that happen right before Shabbat school sessions, and we have some paid professional teachers in the middle school and high school. But kindergarten through sixth grade, it's parent teachers. There are about 110 of them, which is amazing and crazy. And the you know, 2 things I think actually make this possible. One, and sort of necessitate it. One is the context, the culture of Havra, which I'll say something about in a second, and also the structure. And that was one of the things Kaplan was talking about, Mordecai Kaplan was talking about also, that was quoted earlier, that it comes down to the structure. Whether something's an ideal and visionary or ridiculous comes down to the structure. So I want to say something about both of those. So so Havra is, you know, the mission statement sounds like lots of Reconstructionist synagogues, vibrant, diverse. Those are true. I can say they're true. Participatory Jewish community, steeped in spirituality, learning, and acts of social responsibility. We welcome people of all ages, identities, abilities, and backgrounds. And as a part of the Reconstructing Judaism movement, we envision a just and compassionate world where creative Jewish living and learning guide us toward lives of holiness, meaning, and purpose. That's, I think, in some ways, sort of, you know, very representative of many of our synagogues. The keys here are participatory, and what does participatory look like in this community of Havra Shalom? And then backgrounds has a huge impact on our Shabbat school model, because if parents are the teachers, their backgrounds obviously matter a lot. So, the context here, Portland, Oregon, very non-Jewish. And some of you know this either from being in Olympia or other small towns, but you know, most of these kids in their secular public schools might have one or two other Jewish kids, maybe not, often not. And there's not Jewishness around. There's nothing to plug into. You basically have to be proactive. And that's one of the things that a lot of people learn when they move to Portland, which is like, oh, I actually have to do something to be Jewish, right? It's not going to be in the air that I breathe. And most of our community members are transplants. I would say that, you know, probably 90% are transplants, which is not uncommon in Portland, because Portland has doubled its population in the last 25 years, but many other synagogues don't have as many transplants. So people are really looking for community, extended family on a very deep level, and want to be comfortable in a Jewish space. They want their kids to know Jews. The sense of community and belonging and Jewish identification is really primary, much more than, you know, if you want to say content and separate those two out. I don't like to say community and content are separate, because I think ultimately they really are not. But we do have a Jewish day school, and people who want their kids to have a much more time in Jewish education send their kids to the day school. So this idea, you know, what's the underlying value here is really community building, Jewish community, and Jewish belonging over time. And the other piece that I would say is when it comes to participation, the Shabbat school model in some ways is at the core of the synagogue, because parents, you can't be part of Shabbat school if you don't teach or supply one teacher to per grade. Basically, we give people with 3 kids a break, but if you have 2 kids, then a grandparent or a parent teaches for one of those kids, and a grandparent or a parent teaches for the other one of those kids. And what that means is that every parent teaches or grandparent teaches for 4 sessions as part of a team. So we have 16 sessions divided into 4 quarters. I'll show you in a second. And if you have a child in 2nd grade, you teach 4 sessions of 2nd grade in a row as part of a team of, you know, usually 3, 4, 5 parents. So that's where the participatory piece comes in, but it's also voluntary, right? We're not a one shul town. So I talk with each family that is interested in coming, and basically, you know, I don't really interview them, but I'm very clear that I'm talking with them about the match between their family and this model and what makes sense, you know, ask what they're interested in and let them know what I think the strengths of this model are probably for their family and what some of the liabilities might be. So we're able to be not self-selecting, but we're able to be, I think, upfront from the beginning about what this means, which is really important. I feel like there's much better retention, and there's a better sort of satisfaction since I started basically having that conversation with every family. Nobody can sign up without that conversation. So I'll just give you a few more sort of structural things. So with 130 kids, there are 15 to 20 kids per grade in 7 grades, right? I'll show you real quick the what sort of structurally this looks like. Let's see. Oops, this always happens where I'm, okay. So, so this is just, at a glance, we've got our quarters. You can all see this, right? You can see teaching teams. We've
Yes.
got our quarters, we've got our dates, then we've got each grade and their general curriculum. You can see kindergarten is primarily holidays. First grade is the why of Shabbat, the how of Shabbat, Havdalah, Adonai, and spirituality. Grade 2 is all about community, how we enact community. Grade 3, we focus on Torah, starting with Genesis, and grade 4, more Genesis and then Exodus, and then connecting into Pesach and biblical Israel. Grade 5, sort of the 2 cycles, the personal cycle of life cycle and Jewish historical sort of cycle. And we do a lot of Jewish biographies, which are an intersection between those 2. And then 6th grade, we come back to Torah for the first 2 quarters and Midrash, and the second 2 quarters we focused on Tefillah. So that's the general curriculum. And you've also got there, all the parent teachers for each team. They have letters near their names because we have all kinds of structures. Let me stop sharing. We have all kinds of structures that are needed. So one parent is the Rosh or Roshah. They kind of keep their team organized, make sure their team gets back together to do planning, send out an initial note to all the other parents in that grade. There's a Kesher whose job it is to connect with the prior quarter team, receive any wisdom, guidance, routines, what the small group should be, and then they pass that on to the next quarter. We have somebody for each quarter team who's focused on music and singing. So that's just sort of the basic structure. And what those teams do is they meet with me for 2 hours. We do a planning meeting, and I'm going to show you the some of the curriculum in a second. We really focus on goals. Why teach Torah? Literally, why do we do Torah? And that's a conversation parents need to have if they're going to be the teachers. They need to have it amongst themselves. They need to have that clarity for themselves. If they haven't thought about it, be able to think about it. Or modern Israel in 5th grade. What are we going to do with modern Israel, right? So there's an explicit conversation about pedagogic goals and philosophical goals. And then in that teaching team, we also make sure that each person receives or volunteers to be the lead planner for one of the sessions. And lead planner means lead planner, not lead teacher. In this model, we do most things in small groups of 4 to 5 kids and a parent teacher. So being the lead planner means looking at sample lesson plans, thinking about activities, checking with their teammates who wants to do the storytelling piece, who can work on this art project, and then drawing up that lesson plan so that every one of the people on the team has very specific roles in that session. Each of the sessions are 1 hour and 45 minutes. And the other part of the teaching team meeting with me is really familiarizing people with all the resources that we have for them, which includes sample lesson plans that other parents have given us, and the curriculum documents I'll show you in a second, and any other resources. And we have tubs for every grade of all kinds of things that we've collected over the years. So that's the basic structure. It's very intuitive to me. I think I've done like 400 teaching team meetings by this point, and I have been doing this for a while. So I'm wondering if there are any questions about the basic structure or a piece of it that you're interested in, hearing more about. I just want to make sure people have that before we look at the curriculum treasury, which I hope will be a helpful resource for people to think about. So any just basic questions about how all this works? Yeah, Leora.
I have a question, and I realized it's a little complicated, so I also typed it up and I'm going to pop it in the chat. But my question is basically something that came up in my program recently was with a parent who I would say really doesn't know how to behave and interact with children besides her own. And whose interactions with other children need monitoring and mediating. And I'm wondering if you've ever encountered situations in which basically, you said to yourself, like, that, the kids deserve to be in the program, but maybe this adult doesn't belong in the classroom.
So it's a really important question. Absolutely. And there's only been one time where there was a parent who I felt like it was not good for the kid's mental health if that parent was in the classroom, and it wasn't good for the other teaching team members. There are plenty of times where a teaching team of 3 to 5 parents, there's somebody who kind of, is overwhelmed in their life and they're not as strong a contributing member, or they're disorganized, or they're not reading their emails. There's tons of emails, right? Who's like, and when we make the teams, we clearly, and I do make the teams, right? Parents can express preferences for the time of year, but then I make the teams based on what I think is going to be a good combination of organizational skills, Judaica, experience with kids. Those are sort of the primary things, whatever I know. So in making those teams, that, I can do some social engineering there. So that helps a lot, I think. And a parent is never on their own, basically, with the whole group. They might be on their own with 3 or 4 kids, but even there's a lot of other parent intervention and interaction. And with the one parent who I felt like really shouldn't, she ended up organizing a party and bringing lots of food, that kind of thing. I mean, she just had a different role. So and there was one parent who once really was out of control, and I basically, said the other parent in the family needs to teach. So I think having a team
I guess that
helps.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I guess also part of that question, and I don't want to drag it out too much, is just about like when I ask parents to volunteer in class, I set like expectations about how our behavior with the kids is modeling the values we want to model. And even after having that discussion, there are people who have a really difficult time implementing that,
Right.
and who,
Well, the structures in place for this, we have trainings, and they've always been voluntary, but actually I'm considering making them mandatory, especially because we want to do a better job with training for anti-racist kinds of aspects of our curriculum. And in general, I think we are at the point where we have, 110 parents teaching, and I think we can get to the point where I can say, basically, you have to do these 4 trainings over 2 years. But we have one that is planning Shabbat school sessions. We have one that's community building techniques, one that's classroom management. So I think, I'm getting to the point where I feel like, rather than sort of like, okay, we're going to take everybody where they are and you can contribute whatever, like, people are already signing up to do this. It's the only requirement in the whole synagogue besides some, financial communication or commitment, right? And I'm ready to take it up a notch and say, not only do you have to supply a teacher, but you have to do these 4 trainings. So, I think, that will be great. So I want to show people the curriculum. I'm thinking, we have 15 minutes. So any other structural, well, let me show you the curriculum stuff a little bit and then see what else people want to hear about. So, all right, I'm going to share. Okay. So tell me, I'm always insecure that you're seeing what I'm seeing. Are you guys seeing?
We are
Law
seeing
School
the
Curriculum
curriculum.
Treasury?
Yep.
Okay, great. So this is the link that people get, or they can look at it anytime, before a teaching team meeting. And this is our curriculum treasury. It really is a treasury. This is, we ask parents to send us lesson plans. We put in their games and puzzles. And I mean, I think of this as the great wealth of this community. And sort of, in some ways, it's the concrete representation of what participation means in this community. So this is for all parents, some basic things, the calendar, we have blank lesson plan templates, and then lots of lesson plans that parents have submitted. So here we have, I'll just show you super quick, just a generic one where we're, basically asking people to distinguish their goals. So I don't really want people to just come up with activities. We always focus on goals. I think I'm sort of a pedantic educator in that way. What are we trying to do? And that's also an opportunity for parents to learn, right? The one thing one of the things I didn't say is that a main goal here is for parents to learn alongside of their kids. And many of our parents did not grow up with Jewish knowledge, either as Jews who didn't grow up with Jewish knowledge or as people who weren't Jewish and who still aren't. So like, I've never done an actual count, but I think we have very few kids who have two Jewish parents, converted or born. We have almost very few families where there's a male born Jew and a female born Jew parent, right? For, all regular Reconstructionist community, there's all sorts of different family structures, different racial backgrounds, different religious backgrounds. So to have those parents teaching also is an important piece, which I think in general assists the community and models for the kids that anybody can be engaged, and people are engaged their whole lives. But sometimes you get a parent who will, it's not behavioral so much anymore, but sometimes content. I'll be in a class and I'll hear a parent say something, I'll get that slight cringy thing like, oh, but that's not, that's not that's not in the Torah or whatever. But that's one of the pieces of it, that people have all different knowledge levels. So we really look at goals and then objectives. What are the skills, and then activities, and then what each leader is doing. What are the materials? This is just a basic, obvious basic lesson plan. There's a more complicated one for 4th through 6th grade. And then we have a particular one. We use Bean Torah for our Torah structure. So we have one for that book also. There's a huge list of 147 icebreakers and community building games here. I basically say there should be a community building game of some sort connected to the curriculum or not in every single class, and gross motor game or physical activity in every single class. That's really important. We also have a building, but we can only have 3 classes in there, and the other 4 classes are at a church down the street. So we're always dealing with space and, supplies and suitcases of supplies and people bringing in attendance things to the church. There's a lot of that we have to deal with. And then we get to each grade. I'll just pick 2nd grade. For each grade, we have some things that parents need to have at their disposal, the roster, who's on the different teaching teams, allergies, but also we have a summit in May every year. And at that summit, parents get organized for the next year. And actually you can't be part of Shabbat school unless you sign up by May 1st. So all the people who come to us in September and say, time for being Jewish, they have to wait for the next year. If there's room in a class, I can let people in between May 1st and August 1st, but we don't take people in after that. And part of that is because during the summer, classes get together, they have gatherings, parents are getting organized. So it's really disruptive to have people joining up at the last minute. So for example, here, quarter 3, I'll just show you, this is what our curriculum document looks like. This is Jewish community and diversity in 2nd grade, which is all about Jewish community. So different goals that, that I've put in there or other parents have contributed. We start a little bit of Hebrew here, and then objectives. And then we've got each session with a series of activities, and everything that has an asterisk here can also be found in the curriculum resources. So it will refer to a, this or that Xerox from this book or a game or something that a parent has contributed. So then there's also all these sample lesson plans, and these are by different sessions. There's sort of a theme for each of those 4 sessions. And then we've got curriculum resources. And this is where Leo, we use a lot of images. So a lot of what we have in these different curriculum resource folders are images of Jews around the world celebrating Hanukkah or doing this or that, or for the life cycle, pictures of people all over the place celebrating different life cycle passages. So that is on one foot. what the curriculum treasury looks like. And there are 28 quarters with 112, basically units of curriculum. And that's all in there. Every single one of those units has lesson plans, curriculum resources, and goals and activities. So I want to know what would be helpful to explore more from you all, or how you could imagine some piece of this being helpful to you. Yeah, Robin. And it looks like Adam also wanted to say something.
We have a really similar, and I don't know if it's because Jeffrey developed this program so that we have, but in Kohilev, we meet 16 weeks. It's broken down into 4 quarters. All of our madrichim, we call them madrichim, not teachers, are volunteers from their community, not necessarily parents. But I write all of their lessons for them. And so obviously after 15 years, I've quite a treasury, but once upon a time, I spent all my time creating lesson plans. My question is, when you ask them to develop the lesson plans, do they hand them in ahead of time? And if you don't receive them, is there an issue? Like, how do you know what they're really teaching?
Yeah, great question. Let me see if there are any other questions, and then maybe we'll take them together. That's a great question. And maybe we'll trade some of our treasury. That would be great. What was your question, Adam?
Yeah, so I mean, I think so my situation is rather different. So I'm inheriting a position after my predecessor was there for 40 years. And we're at the point where we're sort of using this year to take stock of where our Hebrew school's at, and then use that information, and then ideally, treasuries like the one you're showing, I think, to really reimagine and re-debut our Hebrew school. Focused, I think we are overly focused at the moment, in my opinion, on the content side of things, and not enough on the community and sort of Jewish identity building side of this work. And so I guess I don't really have a question other than, like, is it possible to have some access to this treasury, or to be able to see it? I think that this seems like a really wonderful resource that you have.
Yeah, and there's actually, if you go to the Havar Shalom website and look at the Shabbat School page, there's actually a 20-minute film that was put together for our 40th anniversary, which is sweet, and it shows the program in action. I mean, it shows people in their classes, it shows things happening, and that might be good for you to look at also if you're kind of reimagining. And then I'm happy to have a conversation, offline with you. I would like to see how this project, can be useful to others. So, Robin, I think your question is partly quality control, right? It's not just, do they submit the lesson plans, which is another question. And for us, we want them to submit the lesson plans more so we can call from them and add things to the treasury. And so we bug them about that. And if they don't, we go around afterwards and pick up the papers that they left around or whatever. But we have parents creating a lot of great stuff, and we don't want it to not be available to other parents. So quality control is going to be an issue. It's going to be an issue whether you pay the teachers, whether they went to, the Reconstructionist Rabbinical College, or they're people who have never taught ever, right? And that's just a bottom line in supplementary education and education in general. So, so what do we do about that? I spend time in the classes. I watch, I observe, I come in, I do some little teachings here and there. There's a lot of communication between the team by email, and either I or the assistant coordinator of education, we have somebody who works quarter time doing a lot of the logistics of this with me. We are watching those, we're on those email communications, so we see what is happening, and if somebody's not sending out their lesson plan and it's Friday and it's, they have to teach on Saturday, and somebody's like, where's the lesson plan? I mean, we're sort of very involved in knowing what's happening. And I think, the way I think about it is, there's some sessions that are really hang together, where the kids are really engaged, they're getting something out of it socially, intellectually, whatever. There's some that aren't so great. I sometimes know who those teachers are. I try and sprinkle them out amongst the teams. And again, community and belonging is the primary goal. And anytime people do something challenging together, right, you can come out on the other side with a stronger sense of connection, or for some people it's too much and it's, you know, it's over the top. So this is in many ways an unsanitized, real community builder. Parents see each other parenting their own kids. They see each other working with other kids. I mean, this is sort of community on the most concrete and real level. Oh, is that for us? No, okay. Are you here to say we need to finish up, Jeffrey? Well, you're
I
muted.
am not. I am here to learn.
Okay,
I'm
got
not. I'm not here to tell you to finish up yet.
it. Okay,
keep
I know
going.
we're supposed to go till 1:30.
Yeah.
My time, which is
yeah.
4:30 your time.
Right.
For some
Another
reason.
5 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, you know, I ran a huge program for a big Reform synagogue in Boston, which had 500 kids and 40 part-time teachers and 5 full-time employees. And I worried about quality control there too, all the time. But then I also had to worry about parents coming in and complaining, often not really knowing what was happening, but being, you know, concerned about things. And in this model, parents know, and they know the curriculum and they know what's possible. So my job is not to deal with parental complaints. It's actually training parents in becoming teachers and becoming Jewish educators for their kids and their families. So I think of it as a pretty good trade-off in some ways. Does that answer your question in some ways? Yeah. So what else? What other thoughts do people have, or applications potentially that they might take some piece of or use? I'm wondering too, Robin, you said there, how many families involved in the program you're working with?
We're really declining. So
Uh-huh.
we are really down. I only have 30 students now, so we're much
Got it. In several kind of clusters of grades.
We break them down into 3 cohorts.
Yeah.
So there, we have 3-year cohorts. So actually, my curriculum is a 3-year rotating.
Oh, nice.
Because.
Yeah. And you said you've been there 15 years?
Yeah.
So you've done a bunch. I would love to connect with you. And
we should definitely
trade some stuff. What about you, Catherine? You've been there for a while, right?
Yes, I've been in my position for about 15 years as well. And we're starting a brand new program right now where we're doing basically family education that's it's designed around Jewish holidays and Jewish experiences, as opposed to being more like a school. So it looks more like services and celebrations with learning components. So.
Right. Well, I think a lot of the activities and the curriculum that we have in the Treasury would be directly applicable to, you know, what kids and parents do together when they're doing their family education. And we used to actually, I did a lot of family education in Boston because I was trying to get the parents involved. And we've done a little bit less lately, but we used to do a kindergarten through 2nd grade family ed program and a 3rd through 6th grade family ed program where we had parents learning, kids learning, and then doing an activity together. So I have a lot of those resources too, actually all digital. Not as much, we focus more on Torah sort of pieces more than holidays, but yeah, I'm happy to share whatever's useful in that way.
Lovely.
I
love
mean, one of the things I wanted to ask at the RENA thing today that I was at, where all the different thriving communities
Right.
personnel was there, was like, what happened to that really great thing we had where we could actually put our stuff from our different synagogues on the Reconstructing Judaism website that Shai
Right, right.
Shai used to do, not Shai Held, Shai, what's his name? So like,
Yeah, it disappeared when they updated the website.
yeah,
And then we used to be able to still access the old website,
and now I can't,
and now we can't.
right?
I didn't say anything.
Well, I wanted to ask about that and then we sort of got cut off, but I know Jackie and George, I mean, I know there's been conversation about it for years, but to me,
Right.
it's like ridiculous. We're all doing this great stuff. Why are we not able to share it easily and find it and not have to put out a plea to the RENA thing every time?
Right.
So,
Yeah. Yeah, that is, I mean, that is something that we can talk about and try to work on. Is trying to get that back up there. Part of our challenge right now would be that Jacob's time is limited and he puts everything up for us. But that's a challenge. It's not insurmountable.
yeah,
So
I just imagine there's a lot of stuff that, and if we could do it ourselves in some way or do it through a Google Doc, maybe not through the website, I don't know. I mean, I don't know enough technically, but I know we've managed to put up this huge curriculum treasury with like 1,000 curriculum resources and 28 curriculum frameworks. So, and we're
Right.
not geniuses, but
right.